Alex Murdough, $50,000 drug habit a week? I don't know, man.
This is Hard Knox Talks.
Okay, so we heard something tragic that happened down in the U.S. When we heard of these things, the Murdaugh trials?
Alex Murdough. Yeah.
We're just going to bring Donnie in right now. This is our very first editorial. So we heard of the Murdaugh trials, where tragically a mother and son were shot, and allegedly it was the husband, whose name is
Alex Murdough.
That shot them and then hired someone to shoot himself. Now, as tragic as it is, it wasn't the most unbelievable part of this story that we heard. When it was revealed that they are alleging he had a $50,000 a week drug habit, that is when we're like, whoa. With our lived experience, I don't know. I mean, we've done a lot of drugs in our day, and like, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you got to say, Donna?
Well, I mean, just to put that a little bit into perspective, so this man claims that he was spending $50,000 a week on opioids, and we were spending roughly $1,000 a day. So that was $7,000 a week on opioids, and we were completely non-functional, like just not productive members of society at all. And so this gentleman claims that this addiction had been a 20-year problem. And, you know, he was a successful partner of a law firm. He seemed to be quite active in the social realm. We have some images online of him and his family attending various, Black Tux affairs, as well as there's pictures of him in leisure, boats and different things. This gentleman had everything, and he seemed to be living that kind of life, you know? So comparatively, I struggle to believe that using $50,000 a week of opioids, that he could actually function. It just, I'm sorry.
Or perhaps he had a terrible drug dealer that was charging him way too much for his drugs.
Well, there is that possibility. There certainly. But even at that, I mean, I did some Googling because that's what I do. And evidently, currently, the approximate street value of oxycodone, which is the particular substance of choice that he mentions, roughly ranges from $12 to $40 per pill. So, on that note, I'm going to get into some numbers that I crunched.
Shall we share the screen?
Which screen would you like to share?
I don't. How about this one?
So this is a mugshot of him after, 2.5 months after his wife and son were found tragically shot on his property. He then had not yet been indicted, so he was at large, and he hired a former client of his to assassinate him, basically. Now, his excuse or reasoning for this is that he was concerned that his current insurance policy wouldn't pay out I think it was like $10 million benefit to his surviving son, Buster, if it was determined that he had committed suicide. So he hired this former client to do the deed. And now this is not speculation. This is fact. Okay. So apparently he somehow only suffered a superficial wound. And then it came about that he had hired this man to do this. So he said that because of his opioid problem, he misunderstood the insurance policy.
So hang on, are you suggesting that he tried to screw the insurance agency but now part of his case is that he was too high to understand how to properly screw the insurance agency.
I guess in essence, that's a part of it. Without going into the nuts and bolts of this case, because it is a doozy, I really feel bad for members of the jury and the trial judge trying to make sense of half of the shit that's going on with this case. And I only became aware of it yesterday and delved into it as much as I could. And there's mountains of evidence, and this man is facing some 99 very serious charges, including the insurance fraud, attempted homicide of himself or something. I don't know. American law works differently than Canadian law.
Attempted homicide on myself. It's not funny, really, but it's kind of like...
It's not. It's really not. It's a very, very sad situation on so many levels. And there's times where I felt like bad for this man, because like clearly he has gotten himself into something way beyond his capacity to control. And having had the experience that I have with narcotics and knowing, that shit can get fucking real really fast and way out of control before you even know what's going on. I have some empathy and sympathy for him there. But at the end of the day, we are talking about the homicide of his son and wife, which is the primary focus of this trial that we're talking about, and where this claim of a $50,000 a week opioid addiction has surfaced.
So let's have a look at some glamour shots of Donna and I. So here's me at the height of my addiction. And here's Donna at the height of hers.
Yes.
Now, let's have a look. Donna, if you want to pull some pictures up.
Certainly.
Of.
Okay, so this is the Murdaugh family. I'm not exactly sure when these images were taken, but I mean...
at the height of his addiction,
well,
we're led to believe, or...
According to him,
Mm-hmm.
And some other people have kind of supported this.
Yeah.
He had a 20-year-long problematic relationship with opioids.
Okay. So we don't know for sure if these pictures were taken when he was allegedly using $50,000 a week.
Well, we don't know if that is the exact amount that he would have been using
at that time.
At this time. It's been sort of proposed that because of that long-term relationship, would have had a very high tolerance. Now, we can speak to that because, I mean, we started off with, very low dose.
We did.
Pills. And by the end of it, we were doing 80 milligram Oxycodone. Well, fentanyl.
They looked like 80 milligram Oxycodones.
Right. And of course, because they ended up to be counterfeit fentanyl pills, we have no idea what milligrams were in those pills. Like it could have been one little grain.
Yeah.
I
mean, and that's really all it certainly
could not have been 80 milligrams worth of fentanyl because we would not be sitting
here. It likely wasn't. Odds are, the pills that he was using, they may have been more potent than what we were using. But I'll tell you this, we were using $1,000 a day now. And this is a man who's alleging $50,000 now.
Wait. So we were doing, of that $1,000 a day,
yes.
we were obtaining 30 pills.
Right.
So we were doing 15 each.
Right.
And I'm sure you're not going to disagree with me on this fact that we basically spent all of our time doing those pills. Or being unconscious.
And finding them.
That's it.
Yes.
So anyways, here's to reflect one more time. With that amount of drugs, this is where it took us. Here and here. And here is... I don't know.
I don't know. And there are also other images online of him drinking.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, anybody who knows anything about opiates, when you're using that large volume of opiates and factoring alcohol in, I'm just having a really hard time believing this story.
Yeah.
Like, I really am.
Well, and let's talk about a little bit about what he was doing while allegedly on this copious amount. I mean, copious doesn't even really encapsulate it, in my opinion.
No.
But like,
he was like doing all kinds of things. Like he had his own law practice. Like you did the research. You tell us like all of the things that he was allegedly maintaining while also using this amount of substances.
Well, that's the interesting part, and particularly why I really, really struggle with this story, because he was a senior partner of a firm that apparently had been started in 1910 by his great-grandfather. He was a successful litigation lawyer in personal injury suits, in particular, was one of his primary focuses. He also evidently did some part-time prosecutions for the 14th District, which includes Colton County, which I believe is where he's being tried. And as some of the images reflect, he was part of that high-class society where there would be parties and functions and different things that you would assume somebody would need to be relatively present for. And on top of that,
and not in the bathroom the entire time shoveling drugs into his nose.
well, we don't know his method of intake.
Fair enough.
He very well could have just been popping those pills. But given the social nature of his private life, as well as his professional life, certainly somebody would be like, "Hey, what you doing there? And why
How
you
come you're
doing
not
so
eating
much?"
any actual food? Oh, I'm full.
Well,
Full of
right?
pills.
So there's that element of things, and apparently he was an avid hunter. I mean, they had like where the his wife and son were found. It was a hunting lodge or something that they owned. They had dog kennels, which is right where the bodies were found. So he had this very active lifestyle, which just does not support that level of opioids in your system. Like, it just doesn't. I'm
Did
sorry.
did they give us an amount, like an actual like how much per day in substances amount, or just the
No,
dollar amount?
just the dollar amount. But here's the thing.
Oh, there's a thing.
There's a thing. I am no mathematician.
Right.
I
I'm
was
not gonna.
thankful that I graduated. Well, I left school before there was the whole amalgamation of algebra, geotrig, and basic mathematics.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So, anyways,
thank God.
yes.
So let's just do some basic math here.
Let's.
And if I was the prosecutions, this is the first thing that I would be doing,
Mhm.
aside from like listening to people like us with lived experience who are like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah. The end.
Based on our
Gavel
personal
falls.
experience.
Donna has spoken. Lock him up.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that part. But anyways, so basic math. Okay. So oxycodone comes in immediate release, capsules, oral solution, and oral concentrate. The immediate release pills are in 5, 10, 20, and 30 milligram concentrations. Capsules, which would be slow release, are 5 milligrams. Let's just focus, for argument's sake, on the immediate release. And given the length of this man's addiction, he's going to have a higher tolerance. And based on our own experience, he's going to be looking for the higher doses.
Mhm.
So we're going to focus on the 30 milligram pills. Approximate street value is $12 to $40 per pill.
Mhm.
I'm going to assume that the $40 is in relation to the 30 milligram pills, because generally speaking, the higher the dose, the more you pay. So, with his claim of $50,000 per week at $40 per pill, that is 1,250 pills per week. Just think about that for a second. Now let's break
How
that
did
down.
he have time to how did he have time to strike this pose with his family?
So let's break that down further. 1,250 pills per week divided by 7 days in a week. That is 179 pills per day.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. We barely managed 15 each.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And
So, I mean,
fair
like,
enough.
granted,
we don't know the strength of the pills. We can only assume.
We can only assume. Right.
But still.
But That's
and
just
and
it.
all of the other things that he's allegedly done. You were talking about embezzlement. You were talking about
Right. So
uh,
that was the other part of that sort of segue into the legal practice. Like he was handling high profile uh personal injury and other litigation type files where he was getting $1 million settlements and like multi-million-dollar settlements. There is even a case that is ongoing where his housekeeper mysteriously fell down the stairs at one of his properties, died due to her injuries. And the family sued and got a $4 million settlement, none of which they saw. He stole it.
Hmm.
And he had been stealing from the firm to the tune of roughly $10 million. So
and this is all proven things, or this is alleged at this point?
this is proven.
Hmm.
That's part of the 99 charges that he's facing.
Jeez.
So, yeah. So let's getting back to the math here. Okay, so 179 pills per day. And again, we're assuming the 30 milligram pills. That is 5,370 milligrams of opiate a day. I have a real problem with those numbers on many levels because, like, we have some friends who recently did a podcast and they were talking about
JP, Captain Hooked.
yes,
Check him out.
yeah,
YouTube.
and they were talking about tolerance and brain chemicals and dopamine release and all these sorts of things. And granted, that's why you need to keep increasing your dose, is because of these receptors, because you're seeking that feel good feeling.
Mhm.
And the more you do, the harder it is to attain that. The problem here for me is the respiratory depressant aspect of it. Like, we as a human cannot tolerate that level of opioids in our system. And like, seriously, I challenge any medical doctor, particularly one who specializes in either addictions medicine or palliative care, to argue that a human can handle 5,370 milligrams.
No matter the tolerance, no matter the amount of time that you've used. And we're not doctors. This is not medical advice.
No.
We are not experts in this field outside of our own lived experience. So there's a disclaimer for you. If we're wrong, then holy shit, come and show us the proof,
Please.
and we'll be like, wow, I can't believe this guy's a rock star.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
I
to
bet
glorify.
you all of the members of the Rolling Stones are sitting there like, holy fuck. This guy can party.
Yeah. Well, I know in the one time I went into severe withdrawal, was hospitalized. The doctor had asked, what I was taking, and I told him, and he did not. He was like, "No, it's just no, that is not possible." But then when they ran the blood work, they discovered that I was not full of shit. I was actually taking that amount.
I wasn't full of shit. I was full of opiates.
Yeah. But
Opioids. Sorry.
opioids, right? But the thing of it is, even with our, like, on the math that I did with, unfortunately, because of the nature of drugs that we were taking, we didn't know the exact dose. But even still, we were not taking this amount of opioid in a day. And we were not functional. There's certainly no way. So, like, in order to siphon off this money from the firm,
You have to be cognizant.
you have to be highly, because they have a CFO,
I'm sure.
right? And so apparently, so in Canada, when you get a settlement, the money goes into the firm's trust account and then gets dispersed accordingly. Apparently, in the States, it works a little bit different. There is a holding company that's basically contracted by multiple different firms. It gets held in this account, and then the money gets transferred. So he set up another company with that exact name and opened a bank account as that company's bank account. And that's how he was able to channel the money out. How that escaped the CFO's scrutiny for 20 years.
So this goes even further. The person he was getting his narcotics from was a family member.
Apparently a distant cousin. I don't know that there's been any validation to that.
Mm-hmm.
And judging by names that I've seen come up, this is apparently also the former client that he hired to assassinate him. Like, it's just, this case is so incredibly complex, you know, and on top of that, like, his son, the surviving son, has said that he was aware that his dad did struggle with opioids. And leading up to the homicides, like just days before, the CFO had approached him about this missing money, and not in like a, you know,
Kind.
well, she wasn't, you know, rude about it, but she was like, hey, you know, there's some stuff here I'd like to talk to you about. But, you know, the conversation had evidently been cut short because he received a call about his ailing father, I think it is, and his mother is in early stages of Alzheimer's. So this guy had so much going on, you know, and so extreme duress, many different things to juggle. It's just, I just can't buy this whole $50,000 a week on opioids.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts is, if I was the prosecution, I'd be wondering, what exactly was this $50,000 a week being spent on? And, you know, again, leading up to this homicide, his wife and son, the two deceased, had Maggie and Paul, had found, according to texts, bags and bags of pills. They wanted to have a conversation with him about this. Obviously concerned. Now, I know from personal experience, having used opioids, you are not, what am I trying to say here? You're easily agitated. Tempers are quick to flare.
I mean, it's different for everyone.
I don't know, man. I've, like, people that I encountered out on the street too. So, like that, you know?
Could it
And
be
like,
maybe that they're struggling in life and they're agitated and
well, absolutely. But I mean, I think it's kind of a known thing that with opioids, people are irritable. Like, there's something about it that makes you irritable. So I don't know, you know, like, maybe he went home to talk to the wife and son about it, and and with all this other stuff going on around him, if I was the prosecution, I'd be looking at a different
thing.
than what they're currently looking at. But I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say for sure. But I think it would be worthwhile to question what exactly was he doing with this money, because it's just not possible to do that amount of drugs.
Okay, well, that's it. That's our opinions for this week. We're going to try to do this every week. So hopefully we'll see you next week with something else. Take care for now.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.